Boston, October 2025. Autumn sets the city ablaze. Crimson leaves tumble from twisted oaks, the Charles River glimmers like a spilled coin, and tourists clog the public garden, cameras flashing. For Claire Whitman, 35, it's a brittle facade. The beauty's a cheap coat of paint over a cracked wall. She's at the South End branch of the Boston Public Library, shelving books with a quiet fury, stacking, sorting, slamming spines into place. Her phone buzzes, sharp against her hip. Rachel Carter, her older sister, 37, a freelance interior designer who storms through life like a glitter-dusted tornado, lights up the screen. "Claire Bear, I need you," Rachel says, her voice a honeyed rush spiked with panic. "Chicago gig. Huge client. Think penthouses and private jets. Can you take Sophie for a week?" Sophie's Rachel's 8-month-old daughter, a blue-eyed riddle with no father named, no history offered. Claire's held her twice, the baby's warmth a strange jolt to her hollow chest. "I don't know how to handle a kid," Claire says, jamming where the crawdads sing onto the shelf with a grunt. "You'll figure it out. Formula, diapers, rock her a bit. Andrew's there, right?" Rachel's tone flattens objections like asphalt under a roller. "He's barely around."
"But fine."
1 week. Claire's voice is taut, a wire stretched to breaking. "You're a goddamn angel," Rachel chirps, then hangs up fast, like she's dodging a counterpunch. Claire finishes her shift under the watchful eye of Janet Russo, her co-worker, 60, gray curls framing a face etched by decades of cigarettes, her rasp softened by a grandmotherly tilt. "Go home, hon," Janet says, waving her off from the circulation desk. "You look like you're hauling a coffin." The drive home cuts through dusk, the October chill clawing at the windows. Claire's knuckles whiten on the wheel as she pulls into the driveway. Andrew's black Audi, a Friday anomaly, sits there, sleek and smug. He's a software engineer, usually welded to his corner office until the clock bleeds past midnight. She steps inside, boots clicking on hardwood. "I'm back." "Hey," Andrew replies from the living room, hunched over his laptop on the couch, his smile a tired slash across his face, hazel eyes shadowed. "Rachel and Sophie still coming at 7? "Yeah," Claire says, dropping her bag by the door with a thud. "She's dumping Sophie on us. Some big Chicago deal." He nods, fingers tapping keys in a staccato rhythm.
"Cool.
"Need help with dinner?" "No," she snaps, the word a whip crack, and stalks to the kitchen. She chops carrots with brutal precision, the knife's rhythmic thud a war drum against the static in her skull. 10 years married to Andrew, and it's unraveling, him a ghost in their home, her patience a threadbare rag. She's tired of being the dutiful wife in a marriage that feels like a waiting room with no exit. At 6:57, a car door slams outside. Rachel sweeps in, camel coat swirling, sunglasses perched like a crown, Sophie cradled in one arm, a stuffed diaper bag slung over the other like a trophy. "Traffic was absolute hell," she announces, dropping the bag with a dramatic thump. "But this client? Huge, Claire, like Architectural Digest huge. Penthouses with skyline views." Claire shuts the door slow, jaw tight as a vice. Rachel's chaos always crashes her doorstep, a tidal wave she's expected to surf. She glances at Sophie, round cheeks flushed, blue eyes blinking sleepily, and feels a tug, sharp and unplaceable. Then she catches it, Andrew and Rachel locking eyes for a heartbeat, too quick, too loaded. Her stomach flips, a cold stone dropping. Dinner's a tightrope stretched over a pit. Rachel holds court at the table, spinning tales of her mystery client between bites of Claire's roasted chicken, crisp skin, juicy meat, a quiet when she doesn't savor. "This could put me on the map," Rachel says, fork waving like a conductor's baton. "Think glossy spreads, A-list referrals." Andrew plays along, tossing out, "Wow, and that's big," like he's reading cue cards, his voice flat. Claire picks at her plate, fork scraping ceramic, eyes darting between them, his stiff nods, her overbright laugh. The air hums with something unspoken, thick as the garlic steam rising from the mashed potatoes. "So," Claire cuts in, voice slicing through Rachel's chatter like a switchblade. This career-defining gig. What's it actually about? Give me something concrete. Rachel falters, dabbing her mouth with a napkin, her smile flickering like a bad bulb. Oh, it's still in flux. I'll spill when it's locked down, promise. Her eyes dart to Andrew, then away. Claire doesn't push, but the itch in her gut grows claws. After Rachel breezes out with a "love you, sis." Leaving the diaper bag like a landmine, Claire scrubs dishes until her hands prune, Sophie's milk and lavender scent clinging to her sweater from a brief, awkward cuddle. Andrew lingers behind her, drying a plate with slow, deliberate swipes. You okay? Why wouldn't I be? She snaps, not turning, the sponge dripping in her grip. You seemed off at dinner. His voice is cautious, a toe testing thin ice. Maybe I'm sick of pretending everything's fine when it's a damn lie, she says, tossing the sponge into the sink with a wet slap. Go to bed. He hesitates, then retreats, his footsteps a faint echo up the stairs. Claire's chicken is a hit. Rachel even pauses her monologue to nod approval, a rare nod to Claire's skill. Friday, 8:15 p.m. The doorbell jolts Claire from dicing onions for a late soup, the kitchen still warm with dinner's ghost. She wipes her hands and opens the door. Rachel stands there, suitcase rolling behind her like a loyal dog, Sophie asleep in her carrier, a stuffed giraffe peeking from a bulging diaper bag. Surprise. Rachel chirps, shoving past without an invite. Favor time starts now. What favor? Claire asks, pulse kicking up as she shuts the door. The onions sting sharp in her eyes. Chicago. Tonight. 1 week with Sophie. Mom and Dad are off on their main fishing trip. You know, that annual escape, and you're my only shot. Rachel unloads the diaper bag onto the living room floor. Diapers, formula, a stack of onesies. Like, she's planting a flag. You're serious? Claire's voice rises, incredulous. I've got work tomorrow. You'll figure it out. Andrew's here, right? Rachel kneels, kissing Sophie's forehead with a tenderness that feels rehearsed, her voice softening. You're the best, Claire Bear. I owe you big time. She's out the door before Claire can muster a full fight, the suitcase wheels clattering down the steps like gunfire. 15 minutes later, Claire's phone pings. Andrew's text, last-minute business trip. Back Tuesday.
Sorry.
Claire stares at the screen, the knife still in her hand, blade glinting under the kitchen light. Rachel in Chicago. Andrew gone. Her parents unreachable. The pieces don't line up, jagged edges grinding in her mind. She sets the knife down and peers at Sophie, asleep in the carrier, tiny chest rising and falling like a metronome. What's your mom hiding, kid? She whispers, unease slithering up her spine. Saturday's a crash course in chaos. Claire spills formula across the counter, fumbles a diaper change. Sophie wails, red-faced, tiny legs kicking like pistons, but by noon, she nails a bottle feed, holding it steady as Sophie's gurgles fill the silence. She gets the angle right, no spills, a flicker of pride cutting through the mess. She texts Janet, taking a personal day. Family stuff. Janet replies, take care, hon, call if you need me. Sunday, she's sharper. Naps time to the minute, diapers swapped with a pro's flick of the wrist. Sophie's giggle, bright and unburdened, pierces the fog in her head. Claire catches a diaper mid-slide, pinning it before it hits the floor, a smirk tugging her lips. But Andrew's silence gnaws at her. No texts, no. How's Sophie? Nothing. She tries her parents' number. We're on our fishing tour. Leave a message. Their cheerful voicemail mocks. Rachel's line? The number you're trying to reach is unavailable. Claire slams her phone onto the counter, startling Sophie into a whimper. Sure, sorry, baby, she soothes, scooping her up and rocking her gently, the motion calming them both. That night, wine glass in hand, she stands by the living room window, staring at the Boston skyline, twinkling lights against a velvet dark. Where are they? Why does this feel like a setup? Monday, 2 a.m. Claire's phone shrills, ripping her from a shallow sleep. Mrs. Whitman? This is Mass General. Your sister and husband were in a car accident. Critical condition. The nurse's voice is flat, a guillotine drop. Claire's at the hospital by 3. Sophie left with Janet after a frantic call. Rachel's gurney disappears behind the ICU doors, the clang echoing like a slammed cell. Andrew rolls up in a wheelchair, leg in a cast, face pale as ash, a nurse hovering behind him. "Claire," he says, voice a slither. "I can explain. You slept with my sister?" Her scream tears through the sterile hall, raw and feral, an orderly jumping back with a gasp. Andrew flinches, hands gripping the chair arms. "It was 3 years ago, okay? You were in Seattle for your aunt's funeral. One night, drunk, stupid. She got pregnant and we handled it. Your parents helped." "Handled it?" She hurls her phone at the wall. It explodes in a spray of glass and metal. "You screwed her, made a kid, and let me live a lie?" She storms forward, slamming her hands onto his chair, her face inches from his, breath hot. "You stayed, ate my dinners, slept in my bed, while you built a secret family?" "It wasn't like that." His voice cracks, desperate, hazel eyes darting like a trapped animal's. "It was a mistake, Claire, a dumb, drunk mistake. Rachel kept calling, showing up. I didn't want it to go anywhere." "Oh, so it's her fault?" Her laugh is a jagged blade, slicing through his words. "Poor Andrew, seduced and helpless? You expect me to buy that you didn't choose this? That you didn't sneak around for years?" "No." He leans forward, wincing as his leg shifts. "It was one time, then she told me about Sophie and I panicked. I stayed for you, Claire. I stayed because I love you. Love me." Her voice drops, low and lethal, each word a dagger. "You don't lie to someone you love. You don't let them play the idiot while you're screwing their sister and playing daddy on the side." A memory stabs, Rachel braiding her hair at 12, promising to fight the world for her, and the betrayal doubles, a gut punch. "And Sophie, she's yours, and you let me hold her, not knowing?" Andrew's mouth opens, then clamps shut, his excuses collapsing. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought if I kept it quiet, we could still." "Still what?" She cuts him off, stepping closer, her shadow swallowing him. "Keep pretending? Let me live a lie while you and Rachel laugh behind my back." Her eyes narrow, cold and piercing. "How many times, Andrew? How many nights did you leave me waiting while you were with her?" "It wasn't," he falters, sweat beading on his forehead. "It was just that once, I swear. After Sophie, I cut it off. I didn't want to lose you. Liar." The word cracks like a whip. "You're in Chicago with her now, aren't you? That business trip, you were with her when she dumped Sophie on me. I saw how you looked at her at dinner, hanging on her every word." She leans in, voice a deadly whisper. "You're not a guy who makes one mistake. You're a coward who lives them." Andrew's face crumples, hand shaking. "Claire, please, I didn't mean for this. I'm sorry, I'm so damn sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this." She steps back, gaze ice-cold, unyielding. "You're not just a cheater, you're a fraud. And I'm done being your alibi." She turns to the nurse, frozen mid-step. "Get him out of my sight." Andrew's voice breaks, a pitiful croak. "Claire, wait." "No." She doesn't look back, boots echoing down the hall as she walks away, fists clenched. The shards of her phone glitter on the floor, a tombstone for the life he torched. Claire's scream draws a crowd. She owns the moment, her rage a spotlight. Tuesday, Claire's at home, Sophie napping in a crib she rigged from a laundry basket and blankets, a scrappy when born of exhaustion. Her friend Natalie bursts in, phone thrust out. "Look at this." An ex-post, a blurry shot of Andrew and Rachel at a Dorchester bar, laughing, 3 weeks ago. "My buddy at Mercy saw them at the Seaport Hotel, too," Natalie says, voice low. "Multiple times. This wasn't one night. It's been 2 years." Claire's stomach lurches, bile rising. He lied again. "Full-on affair," Natalie confirms, eyes hard. "They played you like a fiddle." Fury ignites, a slow burn flaring to wildfire. She calls Andrew, voice a steel blade. "How long?" 2 years, he admits, voice splintering like dry wood. "I try to stop." She hangs up, trembling, the phone hot in her hand. At the hospital, she corners her parents, back from Maine, their faces lined with guilt. "You knew. We caught them last summer," William says, staring at the floor, his fisherman's hands twisting. "Beg them to end it. Why not tell me?" Claire's voice is a growl, barely leashed. "We thought they'd fix it." Margaret sobs, her frail frame shaking. "We were wrong, honey. So wrong." Claire walks out, resolve hardening like concrete. That night, she hums a lullaby, Rachel's old tune from their attic days, stolen wine and sisterly vows, and Sophie drifts off fast, her tiny breaths a bomb. The song's a key, unlocking peace in the storm. Wednesday, Claire's back at the library, Janet covering her late shift with a gruff, "You're a trooper, kid." Sophie's routine is muscle memory now, feedings, naps, a lifeline through the wreckage. She catches Sophie's bottle mid-fall, a reflex honed sharp, and grins at her own speed. Thursday, David Pfizer, legal counselor, South Boston grit etched into his broad shoulders, leans by the hospital vending machine, handing her a coffee. "Heard your family's a shit show," he says, voice rough but warm. "Need a hand?" She spills it all, affair, crash, Sophie, words tumbling like broken glass. He nods, unfazed. "Guardianship's a bitch with Andrew in the picture, but if he caves, you're golden." "He won't." "Cowards do," he smirks, a glint in his eye. Their talks stretch, greasy diner burgers, late-night coffee runs by the river. He's blunt. "Use your anger, Claire. It's fuel." She snaps, "Don't shrink me, asshole." He grins, "Don't drown then." It clicks, a spark in the dark. Friday, Andrew calls, voice thin. "I'm out. Sophie's yours. I'll sign whatever you want." "Why?" "You're her mom. I'm nothing." She takes it, no hesitation. David files the papers, smirking over a diner milkshake. "Told you he'd fold." Then Natalie calls, voice urgent. "Crash wasn't an accident. Brake lines cut. Cops are digging." Claire's blood turns to ice. "Who?" "No leads yet." "Andrew's car." She confronts him, cornering him in his hospital room, his casted leg propped like a pathetic shield. "Did you do this?" "No," he snaps, eyes wide, sweat beading. "I swear, Claire, I'd never." She doesn't buy it but walks away, for now. She stares him down, his flinch a trophy. Rachel's coma drags into December, the hospital a frigid second home. Claire visits daily, Sophie on her lap, reading the Velveteen Rabbit in a soft, steady voice, the baby's tiny fingers clutching her sleeve. "I've got her, Ratch," she whispers, brushing a strand of hair from her sister's pale forehead. One gray afternoon, Rachel's eyes flutter open, unfocused, her voice a rasp. "Claire, it's all my fault." A tear slips down her cheek, glistening against the tubes. Claire freezes, hand tightening around Rachel's cold fingers. "Why, Ratch?" she whispers, voice cracking. "You were my sister, my rock. How could you?" "I loved him, hated myself." Rachel's breath hitches, a weak sob. "I'm sorry." Her eyes close, the monitors beeping faintly. Claire's chest caves, anger and grief tangling into a knot. She wants to scream, to shake Rachel awake and demand more, but a memory flares. Rachel at 20, sneaking her into their parents' attic after a breakup, a bottle of stolen wine between them. "Men are trash," Rachel had slurred, giggling, pulling Claire into a sloppy hug. "But you've got me, always." The warmth of that night clashes with the sterile chill now, and Claire's throat burns. "I hate you," she murmurs, tears falling onto Sophie's blanket. "And I miss you so damn much." She presses her forehead to Rachel's hand, a silent goodbye to the sister she'd lost long before the crash. When the machines flatline that snowy January morning, Claire holds Sophie tight, sobbing into her hair. "It's us now, kid." Days later, a knock rattles her door. Detective Paul Keegan stands there, a wiry man in a rumpled coat, badge glinting under the porch light. "Mrs. Whitman? We need to talk about the crash." He steps inside, eyes scanning the room like a hawk. "The brake lines on your husband's car, they weren't just tampered with. Someone wiped the security cameras at the hotel garage where it happened. This wasn't panic. It was premeditated. Claire's pulse spikes, the air thinning. What are you saying? I'm saying your sister, or someone planned this. And you're the one who's been covering for them. Dropping Sophie off, taking her in, looks convenient. Too convenient. His voice is low, probing, a trap springing shut. Where were you the night of the crash? I was home, Claire snaps, fists clenching. I didn't know anything about this. You think I'd hurt my own sister? Keegan leans closer, eyes narrowing. I think you've got motive. Husband cheats with your sister, knocks her up, and you're left holding the bag. People snap for less. We're pulling phone records, traffic cams. If you're hiding something, we'll find it. Get out, she says, voice steel, pointing to the door. He smirks, leaving a card on the table. Call me when you're ready to talk. Her mind races, a storm of doubt and dread. Did Andrew lie again? Was she a pawn or a suspect? That night, sorting through Rachel's diaper bag to clear her head, she finds a battered notebook tucked in a onesie pocket, Rachel's jagged scrawls spilling across the pages. One entry, dated days before the crash, stops her cold. I hated that you were the good one, Claire. Mom and Dad always asked, why can't you be more like Claire? Steady, smart, perfect. I was the screw-up, the loud one who couldn't sit still. So when Andrew looked at me that night 3 years ago, I took it. I needed to feel wanted just once. I didn't mean to keep it going, but he was mine. Mine in a way nothing else ever was. I love you, sis, more than you'll ever know, but I hated living in your shadow. The car, I cut the brakes to scare him. He was going to tell you, leave me. I wiped the cameras so no one would know. I couldn't lose him. It went wrong. I'm so sorry. Claire's hands shake, the notebook slipping to the floor. Rachel didn't just cut the brakes. She covered her tracks, a calculated move born of desperation, not impulse. It backfired, nearly killing them both, and now Claire's caught in the crosshairs. The truth is a double-edged blade. Rachel's broken soul laid bare, but the cops are circling, and she's running out of time to prove she's no accomplice. She finds the notebook, a lifeline in the chaos, her own detective work cracking the case wide open. Spring 2030. Claire's townhouse kitchen buzzes with life. Pancakes sizzle on the griddle, the smell of maple syrup thick and sweet. Sophie, now 6, races in from the backyard, dark curls bouncing, dirt smudged on her cheeks like war paint. David Pfizer spins her high, her laughter ringing like bells. Mom, I'm a rocket, she squeals. Fastest in Boston. Claire calls back, flipping a golden disc with a flick of her wrist. A perfect landing, a quiet triumph. Her parents visit monthly. Margaret kneels in the garden, planting daisies with Sophie, her hands steady despite old scars. William reads Charlotte's Web from the porch swing, his thick glasses slipping, voice dipping into goofy lows for Wilbur. Trusts a slow rebuild, brick by brick, but it's there, fragile and growing. David's her anchor, and her fire. They clash sometimes. You're too damn stubborn, she yells when he fixes her leaky sink without asking, tools strewn across the floor. And you're too proud to say thanks, he fires back, wrench in hand, a grin tugging his lips. But he stays, building a life with her, coffee runs, late-night talks, finger puppets for Sophie that make her giggle until she hiccups. After the notebook surfaced, David took it to Keegan, proving Claire's innocence. The case closed. Rachel's death ruled a tragic miscalculation. No charges filed. One night, Andrew calls, voice tentative. Can I see her? Just once, to say goodbye. Claire watches Sophie chase fireflies in the yard, their glow flickering against her small hands. Maybe, she says softly, if it's right for her. Then, before hanging up, she adds, oh, and Andrew? You lied at work, just like you lied to me. I sent HR the hotel camera stills Natalie dug up, time-stamped, crystal clear. Let's see what they think of their golden boy now. She cuts the line, a cold smile tugging her lips. Days later, Natalie texts, he's out. Company canned him. Ethics violation. Words spreading fast. Andrew's lost Sophie. Lost Claire, and now his cushy corner office is gone, his reputation torched in a blaze of his own making. Justice stings sharp, and Claire feels the weight lift, just a little. That evening, Claire and David sit on the porch, Sophie asleep upstairs, her rocket drawings taped to the fridge. The stars glitter above, a rare clear night in Boston's spring haze. Family's not blood, Claire says, tea warming her hands. It's who you fight for, who you choose. Damn straight, David agrees, his hand finding hers, calluses rough against her skin. Natalie texts again, her words lighting up the screen. You're a badass, Claire. This story, your story, it's gold. Share it someday. People need to hear it. Claire chuckles, sipping her tea. Maybe I will. Hey, David, if I started a channel, spilled this whole mess, you'd subscribe, right? First in line, he grins, leaning back. Call it Autumn Lies. Fits the vibe. Done, she says, a spark igniting. And hey, if you're out there listening to this wild ride, crash, betrayal, and all, hit that subscribe button. I've got more chaos, more wins, more life to unpack. Stick around, yeah. The night hums on, crickets chirping, her world hers at last, scarred, messy, unbreakable.